Hey everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Into the Rift podcast, a Riftbound TCG podcast hosted by myself, Alex Coccia, and of course, my very good friend and best of Teemo, Joe Curley. Joe, we've got so much to talk about this week. We have the Atlanta Championships that just happened, a fantastic regional that I had a ton of fun watching. Congratulations to Prismaticism for their victory. That's been a long time coming. Very few people could continuously change such amazing results back to back. Today we got a full episode, Joe. We're going to be talking about the best ways you could perform at your pre-Rift events. We're going to be talking about a deck that you've been working on. And of course, we're going to be breaking down the results from the Atlanta Regional. But before that, my friend, how are you today?
Yeah, really looking forward to Unleashed, Alex. I got to do a pre-Rift recently. You've done a pre-Rift as well. So looking forward to everyone getting their hands on the pre-Rift and hopefully giving people lots of good tips on how to get the most out of your packs.
Absolutely, and that's going to be our first topic of conversation. You'll probably see it in the thumbnail, the title, and stuff like that. We're going to be talking about how to perform at pre-rifts. And although pre-rifts are like a general kind of like more casual experience, which is one of the reasons why I love them, a lot of places, like the places I play at, often have like pack per wins, and then the winner of the pre-rift often gets like packs or some prizes, stuff like that. And over time, I do know that, like, especially with the summoner skirmishes, like there's additional rewards being kind of given out by Riot to the individual LGSs. So the organized play scene in Riftbound has never looked better, has never been more exciting. And if you want to compete and you want to do your best, well, we're going to talk about it right now. Joe, we did break down all of the decks and all the legends for the actual pre-Rift kits. That was a couple weeks back, but now we're in pre-Rift week. So Joe, start us off. How are we going to perform in our pre-Rifts?
Yeah, so obviously like sealed format is slightly different to constructed, and really the most important thing, of course, once you're in the game, your gameplay decisions are going to be really important. But the thing that's very specific about this is, can you build the most optimal deck? And there's quite a few things that go into that, right? So like you're going to get your pre-rift, you're going to get your Ashe as the promo card. I was really impressed by Ashe, but she does cost a yellow power. So immediately, I think that yellow is like out of the box, the best color. It's obviously not necessarily true. It's going to depend what you get. But just don't forget about that Ashe. Like immediately you've got a really, really good yellow card that you can put into your deck. Then you're going to get your, is it 5 packs, I believe? Maybe it's 6. I think it's 5
packs for the this one here, because you have this pre-seeded deck that comes with the legend, right?
Yeah, so you get a pre-seeded 15 card deck. There's Jhin, there's Master Yi, there's Kha'Zix, there's a few others. Don't like drag yourself down too much based on what you get. The more important thing really with that is what colors do you get. So for example, I had in my 2 sealed pre-rifts. I did one myself, and a friend of the channel, Fresh Lobster, who's an old Runeterra guy and Marvel Snap guy that Alex and I know, I let him draft with the other one, and he also got Jhin as the starter, but neither of us actually used Jhin as our legend. We both kind of said, all right, well, there's some really good cards in this Jhin deck. He ended up playing both red and blue. I actually got rid of the blue cards. But that's like your big decision point. It's what 3 colors are you going to lock in? Because that decision is really what totally and utterly is going to dictate how much success you have. If you make the wrong decision on which 3 colors you're going to go for, you're just going to put yourself in a really bad position for the rest of the tournament, Alex. So did you have like a process and what you went through to decide what 3 colors you were going for in your pre-rift experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, the way I approached the Unleashed pre-rift versus the Spirit Forge was a little different. For the Spirit Forge ones, I was kind of involved in the pre-rifts just like everyone else was. The LGS I was at did have like Victor prizing, stuff like that. Like by Victor, I mean victory prizing, not Victor the Legend. So I wanted to be competitive. And it's exactly what you explained. I think I talked about it on the podcast where I pulled, I don't remember which legend I pulled with the pre-seeded deck, but I also pulled Azir. I pulled like guards. I pulled a bunch of the Azir cards, and I pulled the champ unit. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm playing Azir because I have a lot of the major pieces here. And something that I want to also mention as well is that like it could be generally advantageous to not run a legend or not run a champion unit or whatever, because that extra card draw is absolutely huge. And some of the most powerful cards in Riftbound aren't going to be the rares or the champ units. They tend to be great, and especially when you do constructed. But if you think about it, some of the most powerful cards are the commons or the uncommons that you might be pulling from those packs. Like a great example of this is Punch First from Spirit Forge. If you have a couple Punch First in a sealed format, that is an amazing card for you to go over the top of your opponent by surprise. I mean, it was a great card in sealed as well, or sealed, sorry, great card in constructed as well. But you can almost start to see like, okay, hold on, I got 3 punch first. I got to play some orange here, you know? So there are 2 things worth considering there that I just kind of want to throw into the mix there, Joe. But before I pass it on to you, I will say to answer your question more directly, because I meandered a little bit. My approach was different with Unleashed, though, because knowing that I had like very early access to the Unleashed kits, I was literally amongst the first people ever to play with Unleashed cards, which is really super exciting. I decided that I want to play Master Yi. I had Master Yi, that's what I got with my kit, and I had the XP mechanic, which was a huge question mark for me going into this set. So there was no way I wasn't going to try and play Master Yi. I wanted to see if I can get the deck moving. I wanted to get a feel for Master Yi. So my approach to that pre-riff was totally different. I wanted to fully immerse myself in the new set and what they were trying to do. I was less concerned about winning and more concerned about kind of getting more experience with Master Yi so we can come on this pod and talk about it.
And that's also like something for people to consider, right? Like you don't have to go into this pre-rift and try and like maximizes your chances of winning. Maybe actually it's just what is going to be the most fun for you. That's certainly going to be the case for some people. But yeah, that decision on if you're going into your pre-rift and you just want to win as many games as possible, the most important decision you're going to make is which 3 colors you go for. And you mentioned, I think, Alex, a really key thing, which is you don't have to pick a legend. If you don't pick a legend, you draw an extra card at the start of your turn, turn 1. And what it really does, that extra card is nice, but it also gives you total freedom of which 3 colors you pick, right? Like if you get Jin out of your starter kit and you pick Jin as your legend, you have to play red, blue. If you've got loads of really good orange cards and loads of really good purple cards, one of them isn't going to make the cut, right? So the first thing you should do before you pick your legend is you should just, as you're opening your packs, because you've got a limited amount of time, just be opening the packs and sorting out into your colors. Then just go through your 6 colors and really evaluate which colors are going to give you the best bang for your buck. And are there any colors which you're totally going to eliminate? Like just make those decisions early on. Like I looked at mine. I didn't have many XP cards. I didn't have any XP legends. So I made the quick decision like, okay, orange, I've got loads of XP cards in orange. I'm not going to go for it. On the flip side, if I looked at my deck and I have loads of XP cards, you absolutely can go all in on that XP mechanic. But with the XP, I think you'll agree, Alex, you either kind of go for it or you don't go for it. Like it's dangerous to try and mix and match. So just like very early on decide, are you going to go for XP? Are you not going to go for XP? And that's going to help you really decide which colors are definitely really good, which colors are definitely really bad. And then you'll kind of be left with like 3 colors which you're not sure about, but you can really focus in on making that decision and finding the right balance between having the best cards and also the best legend. And I would say it's better to play your best 3 colors without a legend than play a like legend and kind of play worse cards as a result. So I think that it might be a really good strategy actually in these. Not always, but I think on average, playing without a legend is probably a very good strategy. I don't think, Alex, it makes much sense to play without a champion because you can pick any champion, right? You're not limited in the champion as long as it's within your colors. And I think usually, like for example, I had like the red Jin. I actually used Ashe as well as my chosen champion in one of the games, the promo. And I think that the champion you should always pick, but heavily consider not going for a legend if it's going to restrict your colors.
And actually, I was going to mention that as well. In case it's not inherently obvious, it's almost always better if you're going to go without one. You always go without your legend, not your champion unit. Because your champion unit almost like, wow, you get to draw a card. But your champion unit is a drawn card almost, right? Like it's a face-up card, yes. But that is a card that's accessible to you. So you want to have that accessible to you. So yeah, always legend if you're going to cut one. And I will say though that like thematically, I think that they're trying to make the legends feel more like, okay, I got Jin, I'm playing Jin, right? And what do I get from my 5 packs to make this deck better? I think that's the general goal with Pre-Rift. And I think that's the general spirit. And as I said before, that's how I'm going to be approaching these next ones I'm doing. I'm literally in 3 this week, so I'm going to be doing a lot. So yeah, I'm super excited for it. Were there any other specific strategies you wanted to discuss? I mean, using Ashe in there, of course, is we saw it the same with Yone. Like, if you're going to have this free promo, especially if it tends to be powerful, like, I think Ashe is better than Yone. So naturally, that extra color is going to be a major impact. Yellow specifically. Any other key points you want to bring up with regards to pre-ref performance?
Yeah, like that first big decision is locking in your three colors, right? And then once you've locked in your three colors, just go through each of the three colors and just start building the deck slowly. Like, which cards are you always going to play 100% of the time? And then what's going to end up often happening is you lock in your three colors, you decide, okay, I'm always playing these cards, I'm never playing these cards, and then you've got like a maybe pile in the middle, right? You then, let's say you've got like 20 cards so far in your deck, and then you've got like 10 cards in your maybe pile. It's then really easy in a timely manner to focus in on the key decisions of like, right, I think this card is better than this card. Do I have like a nice curve? Do I have like these big powerful cards? Am I going to be wasting runes? Do I have card draw? Like, rather than just like looking at your massive pile of like 100 cards, really just focusing in on those few minor decisions. I think that's like really key in deck building. It's my deck building strategy actually, Alex, in any game. I like a clean slate and sort of like going from this is the best card, this is the second best card, and then eventually I'm like, right, but what is the 25th best card? Like, what is the last card that makes the cut? A lot of people will do it in reverse, right? Where you start at like 40 cards and then you cut a card and cut a card. I think when you do that, it's really easy to make suboptimal deck building decisions. And it's much better to just focus in on those like 2 or 3 card decisions, which can make a big difference. But again, the single most important decision you're going to make is which colors you play. That's really going to dictate how much success you're going to have.
And an extension of that, I guess, would be like when you're approaching the pre-rift deck design, are you trying to find additional synergies with those 5 packs to build on that pre-rift deck that you've been given? Or are you going to look at what you draw and say like, okay, what are just like the best cards? There are just good cards. And we talked about Punch first, right? That's just a good card. And so you go through your good cards and that's how you determine your colors.
Yeah, it's there's no right or wrong answer. You've got to be quite flexible in that approach. A lot of the time it's going to be better to just play good cards, but a deck which just plays good cards is probably going to be worse than that deck that someone might get that's super synergistic, right? So it really depends what you draw. It's about being flexible and just trying to evaluate on the fly. And yeah, like once you pick your colors, I think the rest really falls into place quite quickly. If you've got like a heavy XP build, I think it can make sense to really go heavily on the synergies. And then, for example, like my pre-rift, I ended up picking Vi as my legend. Probably I was better off with no legend at all, but I was like you, Alex, wanting to test what like it felt like, and also you're there to have fun, right? You don't have to like min-max everything. But yeah, just find like that right balance. I think good cards usually take the priority. You're never going to be unhappy about having Punch first, as your example here, like in your deck, right? But also try to get some synergies going. But generally speaking, just good cards, nice curve. One thing that's easy to underestimate in sealed as well is just the power of raw stats. Like a guy that's just 6 might does nothing is pretty damn difficult to deal with at times. So I think it's like important to have some expensive cards in there, because a lot of the time in sealed, you can kind of get to 12 runes and you don't always have enough to do with those runes. So just try and get in a few big hitters if you can, get a bit of card draw, have a nice early curve. Don't be too top heavy either. And just, try and find something that works for you and have a nice smooth curve.
And something that I'll add as we close out the conversation is that with pre-rifts, there's a lot of players who don't play often or might even be entering the game for the first time. Like, I love the idea that like this is a good entry point for players that want to learn Riftbound, get into the scene, and etc. If you're new, it's always advantageous, generally speaking, to build that 25 card deck and not bloat yourself to 30, 35, or 40. You might have to make hard decisions, but the consistency of the draw and drawing your better cards more often will outpace having more cards, right? That's just generally in principle how you would generally want to play. Curious about your thoughts on that, Joe?
Definitely agree. Yep, absolutely agree. I mean, I think in Riftbound and Constructed, it's one of the few games where you have to play that 40 card deck. You can't go over, right? But I certainly agree. Big shout out to my friend Moyen, who you know as well, Alex, from Marvel Snap. He recently joined the Lorcana game design team, but his like big thing was you have to play the minimum amount of cards. Consistency is king. So I totally agree with you on that one. It can be tempting to play more cards because, yeah, you get more powerful cards, but what you actually do is you dilute the consistency of your deck and make it less likely that you draw your very best cards.
And talking about playing to your very best, Joe, you've been doing some cooking. You've been doing some cooking already, getting started with your preparations for Unleashed, and you wanted to talk about an early version of Vi. that you've been working on here. And so you've got it here on the screen, and I would give you the floor here because you got some creative stuff going on here. So Joe, talk us through this early rendition of Vi by Joe Curley.
Yeah, so I did some Unleashed games for the first time today, now that sort of the Spirit Forge tournaments are out of the way. And Vi is a legend I really wanted to try because I'm a big Arcane fanboy. And I think that it's been quite underestimated. It is definitely an early version, but I'm going to have a deck guide out on my YouTube channel sort of like in the next couple of weeks once I've refined it a little bit. But I'm just really impressed by yellow, which honestly, Alex, I'm going to have to see if you can, I'm going to put you on the spot. What is the yellow domain? Fury
Body?
Is red, body.
It's body. I don't have it up today. That's just...
I think you're right. So
Yeah,
we've
it's
got
body.
Fury and body.
No, it's not. It's order. It's order. Body's orange, right?
Yeah, I think
I
body's
said
orange.
I was so confidently incorrect. It's definitely order. Order is yellow. Body is orange. Fury's red. Chaos is purple. Calm is blue. Wait, calm is green.
Calm's green.
Is...
Blue is mind.
Mind.
Blue's mind.
Boom,
Yeah.
we did it.
So, what was yellow again? I already forgot. Order?
Order, yeah.
Yeah, so I think Order is probably the big winner in my view from Unleashed. There's some awesome cards. And overall, like the general feel, I think, of Unleashed is you've got quite a lot of lackluster legends, but you have some unbelievably good signature gear, spells, or units. Like, I think that that's really kind of the theme of this set is you've got some, yeah, okay, most of the legends are kind of weaker on average compared to the previous ones, but the signature stuff is just a whole other level. And the Hex Deck Gauntlets, like when I first looked at it, I was like, yeah, it's all right. It's not that good. It is unbelievable, Alex. I mean, if you compare this card to the BF Sword, the BF Sword is a 4-cost gear, which gives +3. This is a 3-cost gear, which gives +3. And if you deal 3 or more excess damage, you also draw a card. Like, it is absolutely unbelievably good. And there's just a lot of really cool stuff going on with yellow. They got quite a lot of new card draw options. This card, Shadow's Call, is a 2-cost spell. You choose a friendly unit without temporary, you give it temporary, and then you draw 2. So you're paying 2 to draw 2 cards. You give one of your units temporary, but if that unit was already going to die in a combat that turn, for example, it doesn't matter, right? You can still get big use out of that. Maybe you use your Death Grip to sort of take that might from that unit elsewhere. And then also this new card, Tactical Retreat, which is giving really big comparisons to the yellow version of Flash. Flash, of course, targets 2 units at reaction speed. This only targets 1 unit at reaction speed, but instead of retreating it immediately, you choose a unit, and the next time it would die this turn, you heal it, recall it, and exhaust it. What that means is if you've got like a Kaisa with the Hex Deck Gauntlets, for example, chilling at 7 might, maybe you boost it up even further with something like Death Grip, you then use Tactical Retreat. If your Kaiser's going to die, it still deals damage, but then will be recalled at the end of the turn. So I think like the yellow cards are honestly super duper fascinating this set. We know that red has a lot of really strong cards already. And I just think that this color combination is one to really keep an eye on. I think even like Rek'Sai Darius, like yellow just got a lot more card draw. You've still got Hidden Blade. Again, this is like a really early iteration of this deck. And now that we're into set 3, there's so many more cards competing for these slots, which I think means we're likely to see in Unleashed the power of the 1-ofs, the 2-ofs. I think that's just going to become more and more relevant. But really, really impressed by this deck. I managed to get my Vi hot-headed at 256 might earlier on. And I'm going to try and keep gunning to see if I can get that even higher. So really fun deck. But overall, just think it's interesting to look at some of these yellow cards in particular coming into Unleashed. Obviously, Azir won the event recently as well, Alex. So I think it could be a good time to be a Order player.
Heck yes. It's always a good time to be an Order player. What are we talking about here? But it's also a great time to be a chef of decks. I mean,
Yes.
At the end of the day, one of the best things about a new set coming out, and I know we talk a lot about decks and like what people are cooking and stuff like that, but like kind of designing something novel and innovative is part of the fun. It's a huge part of what makes the game fun. And even what we saw from Prismaticism, like the Rengar, for instance, in the deck design, was genius, was literally genius, right? So like, don't sleep on, even if like decks are winning, don't sleep on how you can still be innovative by not only designing new things with new sets, Unleashed is coming, you get to cook, but even taking archetypes that people believe are refined and then adding surprise cards or flashy elements that really fit your style of play. And that's exactly what Prismaticism did in this championship, which is what we are talking about next, actually. What a great transition that is. Before we get into that, though, I thought this would be interesting to discuss the most played cards in Atlanta. This is something that I don't know if they've publicly made available before. I think that we've had like some like third-party analysis, but official from Riot, they said, hey, these are the cards that are being played the most in Atlanta's main event. All sets, all cards. I'm going to read through it here. It's number 1, it's Rebuke. Number 2, it's Furious Forerunner. Number 3, Hard Bargain. Number 4, Ride the Wind. Number 5, Defy. Number 6, it's Noxus Hopeful. Number 7 is Discipline. The way I read that was kind of funny. Number 8 is Kaisa Survivor. Number 9 is Stacked Deck. I'm surprised it's actually that low. Number 10 is Charm, followed by 11, Tide Turner. 12, Not So Fast. 13, Thermo Beam. That's actually way higher than I would have expected, but Thermo Beam's out there. 14, Bring Your Thunder Song. Definitely a ban candidate. Number 15 is Falling Star. And then finally, at 16th place, is the Thousand-Tailed Watcher. Thousand-Tailed Watcher has 424 plays, and at the absolute top, Rebuke had 630. So, not plays, just instances in decks, I should say. Joe, what stands out to you in this list? Are there anything that are like not present that surprises you, or anything that is present that is kind of shocking as well?
There's no Fight or Flight. That's definitely one thing for sure. Of course, it's been banned now. I'm sure Fight or Flight might have given Rebuke a run for its money. And I think also like Fight or Flight being gone is really pushing up the amount of Ride the Winds and Rebukes ever so slightly. Like Ride the Wind is kind of like a natural card to come in once you lose access to Fight or Flight, as it gives you like a different combat trick. I think like we were just looking at some Unleashed cards, right? These are the kind of cards that you've got to compete with now though, right? Like in set 3, it might be a really strong card, but this is the level that you've got to compete with to make the cut in a 40 card deck. So I think that the Unleashed deck building is going to be brilliant. Purple is definitely quite dominant in at the top end of this one. You've got lots of counter spells as well with Hard Bargain, Defy, Not So Fast all making the mix as well. But yeah, tons of really good cards. Rebuke, I do agree with you, Alex. I'm surprised that Stack Deck is down in 9th. But Rebuke being played, I don't know, like 150 more. It's almost like 50% more Rebukes than there was. Stack Deck is quite surprising. It's more like 33%, but I would always play 3 Stack Decks personally. We have seen some people playing less than that. But yeah, a lot of people actually up onto 3 Rebukes this weekend. And often what's going to happen is you'll have that 3rd Rebuke in the sideboard as well. It would be interesting to see how this differs right between main deck and sideboard. Like I would imagine like Stack Deck might just... No one's going to put Stack Deck on the sideboard, right? Whereas like a Rebuke or 2 on the sideboard makes a lot of sense.
One thing that really kind of stands out to me, like imagine I took this image to you and I somehow sent it back in time. And we're doing a podcast about Spirit Forge, and we're all hyped up. And you see this list, and you see Furious Forerunner at number 2, and you're like, oh, wow, Rumble must be crazy. Not so much, eh?
Yeah, not so much. Forerunner had a really good weekend, it's fair to say. And it's also like, you look at the top 2 cards, like Forerunner, what is the biggest counter to Forerunner in the game? It's Rebuke. So it's interesting to see, even like Not So Fast, that's going to be one of the best counters to Rebuke, is in there as well. I guess there's no blue cards in this. There's no yellow cards either, right? It's purple, it's red, and it's green as the most represented. So that'll be interesting to see if those other 3 colors can maybe start the orange, the yellow, and whatever else there is left, to see if they can, start taking over a little bit in the next set.
Now, talking about the actual meta, all right, the meta shakedown. On the screen is day 1. These were the game day metas. So this was like who registered for the tournament. Huge tournament, by the way. Absolutely remarkable turnout. Anything surprise you here? I'm not going to read through the list completely, but as you would expect, Draven at the top with Irelia. Right at the bottom, Garen.
Yeah, I'm honestly a little bit surprised that Draven is more popular than Irelia, I've got to say. I think Draven did make it all the way to the finals. Irelia didn't, in fairness. But yeah, Draven, I didn't expect to be the most popular deck post-ban. But obviously I had a really good showing, making it all the way to the final. Azir, despite winning the event previous, only at 3.2%. Obviously there was a quick turnaround. But yeah, like overall, like nice spread of stuff. Like every deck represented at least 1% or more, which is always nice to see. I'm, I guess, a little bit surprised that like some of the Aurora decks are so low, like Misfortune and Severe, for example. I would expect to be represented a little bit more. Maybe that's the big surprise for me.
And I gotta say, right, like obviously this is day one. Who actually converts is a whole other discussion. But we've talked about it before. The best of prizing and the like the incentive to play random, not even random legends, but any legend that you so desire is amazing. There are very few games where you can go to a competitive tournament and see maybe, okay, yeah, Draven at the top, Irelia, they're outliers. But everything else, like Kaisa is what, 7%? Like, what are we talking about here? If I were to play, I might play 100 games of Marvel Snap. I'm playing against the same deck like 30 times. Like, there's no way you have other card games with meta diversity like this. And it's only getting better. I think the ban's targeted, obviously the outliers in Draven. And I do agree with you that Irelia, I believed, would have been a little higher. But yeah, this is a great example of why the best of prizing is so great. It allows for this meta diversity. And even in my experience in Las Vegas, I played against a whole different deck every single time. And I thought that was a lot of fun. Because not just that, it's like when I get to play against a Renata, you know, I don't play Renata and I don't get to play against Renatas. I get to learn more about the game through my opponent, which is really exciting as well as someone who loves talking about the game as it is, right? So yeah, Joe, any thoughts as we move on to day two here?
Yeah, it tests you as a player as well, right? Like you play against Renata. If you've been grinding, you might have some experience in that matchup. If you've been playing a lot, yeah, well, maybe you haven't queued against a Renata because they're not very common. So I think that the whole meta diversity is brilliant. I mean, it's also worth mentioning, right? When we go into set 3 in Unleashed, we're going to have all of like 3 sets worth of legends that are going to be up for grabs with this best of, and then it's going to rotate out. Like I think set 4, you won't be able to get metal cards for the set 1 legends anymore. So we're now going to be entering a phase where there's like 3 sets worth of legends every single time up for this. So the meta should get even more diverse moving forwards, right? We've got 2 different sets of legends here, but like maybe Garen's going to be down to like 10 players next set, like because you're just adding more legends into the pool that players can go for. So it's only going to get more diverse from here.
Yeah, well, there won't be much of a point to play Garen unless you really think that Garen could win at that point. But the last championship before the series, like the set rollover, you're going to see probably a ton of RE gamers trying to get in there and snag that RE before it rolls out of rotation. Now we have the day 2 meta here and the conversion rates as well. Joe, what stands out to you?
Yeah, Draven and Irelia still top of the pile, Master Yi as well. But I mean, when you start looking at the conversion rates, you've got Darius, I believe, actually is the highest conversion rate at 36.7%. I think you've got like Draven at 32.9%, Azir at 32.7%, but actually Darius, the highest conversion. Darius also had like a really good event in Lille, I believe, Alex, in like the pre-Rift, or not the pre-Rift, the pre-regional, they call it, which is like the 1,000 player side event on the Friday. I think Darius really popped off at that pre-regional in Lille. So it's definitely really interesting to see that. Again, we were just looking at that Vi deck, and I think that the yellow got a lot of extra card draw this set. So I think Darius is one to look at for Unleashed. And I'm very happy to see 4 Teemo players made it through to day 2. I feel like I let Teemo down in Lille. No Teemo players made it through to day 2. I think Teemo's still a really solid deck, and I'm happy to see 4 players making it through on Teemo.
Any surprises with Renata, Garen, and Leona throwing up donuts? I mean, Leona, I'm actually surprised wasn't able to make day 2.
I'm not too surprised. I think that those are probably 3 of the weakest. I think Leona actually gets a lot for Unleashed because there's so many new stun cards entering the game. I'm not too surprised by any of that, to be completely honest. But Three Jinx. I mean, we're going to see some of the decks that made it really far. It was great to see like Jinx made it super far, Sett made it super far. You have to ask the question, would these players be playing these decks if it wasn't for the best ofs? Probably not. And we actually get to see that decks like Jinx and Sett can still have such unbelievable performances. So I think that anybody that thinks that the best of prizing is bad for the game is totally lost, if I'm honest. I think it's brilliant.
When we talk about the top 16, this is what it looked like here. Obviously, we're going to go into the top 8 as well. Lots of Draven, but she did get Sett Sneak in there. We do have a Jinx in there, which would have been the absolute biggest surprise of them all. Anything that stands out to you? I mean, I just kind of ruined your thunder. Obviously, the Jinx and Sett stand out to you, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the other thing that stands out to me is the top seed, Coco Lopez, 11 wins and a draw, was actually my round 3 opponent last week in Lil Alex. And I've got to say, they beat me 2-1. It was a really fun series. And they were absolutely lovely to play against. So I was extremely happy to see them making it all the way to the final. Like, it was just like, they were very good. They were very quick with their plays, but they were just really friendly and fun to play against. So a big shout out to them for having an awesome... I know they didn't make day 2 in Lille, so that's just a brilliant turnaround. And it makes me feel a little bit better about my bad tournament result, Alex, when I see my round 3 in the finals the next week. It makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I got to piggyback off that. My experience playing Riftbound has been nothing but truly positive. At every single event I've gone to, especially like when I was in Vegas, I didn't play main event. I played all the side events. Everyone with that extra little bit of an edge off, the community was so positive, so good, so fun, to the point where it's like, so I'm hoping to do a couple competitive events. I just want to see. I just want to get myself out there, see what I can do. But realistically, if I were to go the rest of my career just doing side events, going for metal cards, man, imagine, if I can go to Europe and we can play like 2v2s or 3v3s together, buddy, I would do that for 3 days till I black out all day long. And I'm just telling you right now, I love this game. I love the community around it. And it's been so fun at the events. Like, I'm not just trying to like shill for Riot and UVS and stuff like that. These regionals are legitimately an absolute riot. That was an unintentional pun. I do apologize. But let's talk about top 8 here. This was a top 8 bracket and even goes into the top 4. Lots of Draven. Irelia, which honestly, if I would have picked right off the rip, like Irelia seems like it was probably one of the best positioned legends going into the tournament. And we should really mention here that just getting to top 16 is it's crazy. Getting to top 8 is crazy as it is. Like, this is an accomplishment. The fact that a Jinx got to top 16, or top 12, I don't remember what the last slide was. That is an absolute accomplishment. We often focus so much on like the dub, the win, right? We focus so much on that. But Sett being here is awesome in top 8. Yeah,
no, it's really awesome. Like, and the Sett, so I did stay up very late. I think it was like 3:30 a.m. local time when I fell asleep just before the finals started, and I watched back the finals. But this Prismaticism versus Colin game was so tight. I think Colin had the game if it wasn't for the top deck of Prismaticism. They drew the Kaisa off the top, which was just enough to win that final combat. So that was an absolute nail biter. So really impressive performance by Colin. Both players were doing press-ups in between matches, which I thought was quite cool. I might have to try and take that as for myself. Like, after Prismaticism lost, they started doing some push-ups. After Colin lost game 2, he started doing push-ups. So it was a fun tournament to watch. And then, yeah, the only sad thing for me is it was like 4 a.m. As the semi-finals were wrapping up. My eyes could barely stay open, but it was a great tournament. I really enjoyed watching it a lot.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely fantastic. Let's get into some of the decks here. We're going to go through some of these decks quickly. This was not the one I intended to talk about first. It's just the one I had selected first. I wasn't prepared properly, apparently. Do you want to talk about Jinx first?
Let's do it.
21st.
Yeah,
this is the best of Jinx. I mean, this is a great place to start. Then we'll get into the number 1, Dark Annie by Prismaticism. Dark Child Annie, I should say. But yeah, truly remarkable result from Jinx here. We have Arena's Greatest. I know it's absolutely one of your favorite battlefields. Zon Warrens and the Minefield, which was kind of a surprise to me to see in this Jinx list here. But long story short, Joe, what are your thoughts on this best of Jinx that, I mean, honestly, for all intents and purposes, could have gone all the way?
Yeah, triple Vi, triple ride the wind. So that minefield is really just feeding that Vi. I think that is the general strategy with that. The Rek'Sai seems like one of the most popular cards that's sort of making the cut in these decks. Is just a generically good body, right? Like it's a really good opening play going second. You can accelerate your champion out as well. That's not relevant at all with this deck because Jinx champion already has it. So in this deck, the Rek'Sai really just there for stats. Just there as a 3 might, 3 cost with Assault 1 with the flexibility of accelerating it. And then, yeah, just consistency. You've got like a 1 off boots, couple Forerunners, 1 flash, 1 falling star, 1 hard bargain. It just looks like a really solid set of cards. Also going for that like overzealous fan. No room for like the Pouty Poro, for example. It just looks like a very clean list. Those Noxus Hopefuls, hard to go wrong with those as well. And we looked at that graphic before, Alex, that you found of like the most popular cards, and you're seeing a lot of them here, right? Rebuke, Ride the Wind, Forerunner, Hard Bargain, Falling Star, Stack Deck. All of those were in that list that you shared. So there's just a lot of good cards there.
And I like the fact that it's actually a relatively inexpensive deck. I mean, almost all of the expense is in the Survivor, right? Kaisa Survivor. And the good news is I've been seeing like pictures of like LGSs getting like a full case of Flash. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but they're getting that stock, so that's going to come down in price. So Kaisa Survivor is kind of the only expensive card here. Really innovative with Rek'Sai, obviously. Yeah, this deck's awesome, and I love the idea of Jinx and its legend in principle. That very aggressive, like top deck, just churn cards type play. Really cool to see it work as effectively as it did. Congratulations, really well deserved, and I love Jinx too as a newfound Arcane fanboy. Let's go to Prismaticism's top deck, the winner. It's Annie. Now, Annie is no stranger to being the top seed of a tournament. In fact, during Origins, obviously Annie was the absolute top dog near the end of it. Didn't start that way, but near the end of it there, with Diwali winning the first regional in North America in Houston, it was an Annie deck. And then now Annie's back. But there is a lot of new hot sauce in here. And I mentioned it before. Joe, I need your take on Rengar. Like, Rengar was absolutely ridiculous. Truly remarkable the way that this card just continuously provided value for Prismaticism.
Yeah, I mean, with the Annie Legend, right, you're readying those 2 runes, and the Rengar is just a totally different threat. It was the last card played in the tournament. Falling Star came through on Prismaticism's Traveling Merchant, and then the reaction with Rengar just means that Rengar cannot be removed. It's going to hold, and that was the tournament. So a tournament winning card. Also something to look out for, obviously heading into Unleashed, is we've got the new Ambush keyword, which is going to work in quite a similar way to this Rengar. And I think Annie can definitely make use of those. It just gives you like a different set of threats. You've got Rebukes, you've got Ride the Winds, you've got Flash, you've got Longsword, but then you've also got a unit that can come down out of nowhere to surprise your opponent as well.
This legend ability will never get old. It's just too good. Like, it is such a fantastic legend ability, and for exactly that reason as well. And we are getting a whole bunch of more ambush cards, which, as you said, is going to provide a lot of additional utility. I don't have the sideboard here, but he definitely had a sideboard, so we'll have to. We're still trying to get some of the data, because it is like we record like the next day, right? Basically, so
we'll have it in the description. The updated with the sideboard. And I just wanted to talk on the battlefields as well, Alex, because this Seat of Power battlefield has really impressed me in Annie. Like, Annie can struggle for card draw a bit. Seat of Power is a Spirit 4 battlefield. When you conquer here, draw 1 for each other battlefield you control. So very often in an Annie deck, you're going to be double conquering, and you're short on draw. Seat of Power, very often going to draw you a card, and your opponent's going to struggle to make as much use of it. So really cool battlefield. Zorn Warrens also seemed very popular this weekend. It's just a consistency battlefield, and of course, the best battlefield in Riftbound history, the Arena's Greatest.
I love Arena's Greatest.
Maybe Obelisk was better, but it's the best that's not banned.
Yeah, I hope they don't ban Arena's Greatest. Part of the challenge is with Riftbound are the length of the games, especially in those playoff rounds.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man, things are going long there. We need Arena's Greatest. We just need it. Second place here, Draven. I mean, there's been a lot of Draven being played, of course. Anything in particular that stands out to you here? And is this the exact deck that you had played against? Do you remember?
I think there's a couple of changes. I do think there's a couple of changes. I mean, straight away, I want to go to the battlefields again, Alex. I'm talking about how good Arena's Greatest is. Well, Aspirant's Climb is making a real entrance into the game in these like mid-range decks as they go second battlefield, specifically there to counter the Arena's Greatest. So suddenly you're basically just playing a game without battlefields, right? Each player starts with that extra point, but you've got to get to 9 points. And Aspirant's Climb can really make the difference to mitigate the potential value of Arena's Greatest. That 1 point from Arena's Greatest, it's not about the point itself. It's about the pressure that that one extra point has on the whole game. And with that Aspirant's Climb, you just have a bit more breathing room, time to get set up. Gem Jammer, Alex, 3 of, the only card I've ever revealed for Riftbound. It's the only card I ever need to reveal. Absolutely brilliant. You could be going for like the Pouty Poro, the Treasure guy, but no, the Gem Jammer with ganking. Very often it was just played down by Coco on curve as just a 2-might guy, but the power that this card can have in the late game, giving your Forerunner ganking or something like this, is absolutely fantastic.
I know this is like totally random and anybody listening doesn't truly care about this, but I just want to say that as someone who controls the screens that you guys see, something that constantly stresses me out is not being able to get the cards framed properly. And I just kind of flicked the scroll wheel here and it landed so perfectly for the first time ever. Look how perfectly framed these cards are. Like while you were talking, I started blocking out because I was so happy that but the sad part is there's actually another row. So I can't even get the full deck in there, but
sad.
Listen, we've been trying to make the viewer experience of the podcast better. And one of the ways is trying to figure out how we can squeeze as many legible cards onto the field as possible. But yeah, I mean, Draven continues to be an absolute fantastic deck. Irelia, 3rd place. And again, this is one that could have absolutely have won it all. Joe, take us through the deck.
Yeah, so Irelia, my least favorite deck in Riftbound, I've got to say. I absolutely, this card gives me nightmares playing against it. Battlefields, Ravenbloom Conservatory, Sunken Temple, Zorn Warrens. So mainly like battlefields focused on consistency and sort of just giving your deck as much consistency as possible. You've got Defiant Dance, of course, which is probably the best signature spell in Riftbound. You've got a brilliant chosen champion that doesn't cost a power and a very strong legend. This deck is built like a little bit differently to what you might expect, though. You've got all the things you would expect, like On Guard, Discipline, Flash, Hard Bargain, Not So Fast Defy, Charms, Ride the Wind, Rebukes, but like Triple Desert's Call being preferred over the Lonely Poros, I think is a really cool thing to notice. You've got, of course, that triple Stellarcorn Herder, 1 Vex, 1 Mind Splitter, 1 Zhonya's Hourglass, and just 2 Guardian Angel. Quite interesting to see like the Zhonya's Hourglass preferred over the 3rd Guardian Angel. But again, you're seeing quite a lot of like one-offs at some of the higher level with like this one-off Fizz as well. And I just expect that to continue to be the direction that Riftbound goes. Like 40 card decks is quite tight. And the more cards that are being printed, the more competitive it is to like fit a card into a deck. And I think that one-offs in Riftbound are just going to continue to be more and more prominent as time goes on.
And I had this thought as well, by the way. A card like Hard Bargain, which is obviously a fantastic card. I wonder if they see less value going into Unleashed because of the ambush mechanic, right? And what you can now do to kind of jump into battlefields and how you can like play around like, oh, it's not a spell actually. So like, I think that those types of cards might actually decrease in value slightly. And I wonder if they become more like, well, even in this, like, you know, if you have 2 in the main deck, there's a good chance you have a 3rd in the sideboard, for instance, right? Or you just sideboard the Hard Bargain altogether. But I just had that thought that the ambush mechanic might actually impact the value of these types of cards going forward.
I think you're absolutely spot on, Alex. I mean, I look back to the final moment yesterday with that Rengar. I think Coco, the Draven player, had a Hard Bargain in hand, and then the Rengar was like, oh, well, I can't actually do anything about that, and lost the tournament right there. So I think you're absolutely spot on. Those ambush cards, definitely going to be an interesting way to get around the pesky counter spells that Irelia has got tons of.
Going on to someone we have spent a lot of time talking about, we have Alan once again playing Ezreal, not giving up hope on Ezreal despite the changes that would have obviously impacted this archetype as a whole. 4th place, and again, Alan is someone who could win it all at any given time. Also, we've talked about it before, but I got to make mention to it again. it's so cool to see people like Alan Prismaticism like consistently perform. It shows you that it's not all RNG, that there is a high skill ceiling in this game. So it's great to see them performing. I actually had a chance. In Vegas, I bumped into both Alan and Prismaticism at the event there. We were actually walking there, and I wished them luck on the game. They had no idea who I was. Like, hey man, like, good luck, guys. And they're like, yeah, thank you. They're so nice, so polite. And I think that's one of the things that really stands out about this community. When you have top end players who are incredibly kind, courteous, not only to just one another, but to everyone in the event, I think it's one of those things that really, it adds to the experience. And so these are wonderful people. I'm so glad they're finding the success that they are. And with this deck, Joe, obviously Alan would have had to have made some changes. What stands out to you specifically?
Yeah, like Cold Shot banned, Fight or Flight banned, but Cold Shot in particular, you really have to reimagine Ezreal, and you kind of go from this like very slow control deck to something that needs to be quite more tempo focused, with Gust being like a big inclusion now with Stupefy. Obviously, Gust is a card which is very strong in the early game, but it's one card less in hand. But in an Ezreal deck, because of that Ezreal Legend ability, when you're targeting, the Gust is almost like replacing itself. So it's a really key card, like Wages of Pain, Stupefy. This deck is built to be pretty, like, it's trying to like thread the needle between being quick in some matchups and having enough control in other matchups. And it was eventually the Annie of Prismaticism that Alan became unstuck against. He did say he felt like quite unfavored in that matchup going into it. And yeah, basically probably Annie just a little bit too quick for this Ezreal deck. But this Ezreal deck is really well positioned. If you're a strong player, you can go aggro against some of the slower decks, but then against some of the quicker decks, you can try and control the board a little bit more. Like maybe, for example, like another Singularity or something like this would really help against a deck like Annie. And maybe that Rengar made a difference as well. I fell asleep as that final semi-final game was on, so I need to go and watch that one back. But I think that Ezreal looks to be a very interesting deck moving forwards. Great signature spell, good legend. It is going to be competing with Diana in Unleashed, which I think is also strong. But I definitely think this is one of those decks which is... Alan really showed us how it's done. Like it really had to be reimagined without Cold Shot. And I didn't think that Ezreal was going to be Alan's deck of choice still, but he still believes in it and had a great result with it. Super impressive.
And one of the major winners from the bans was Kaisa. Mm-hmm. Kaisa was obviously the go-to champ for Origins. And then when we got into Spirit Forged, it kind of got displaced a little bit by the Dravens, very specifically, of the world. Now, Kaisa finishing 5th here by Frosty could have very well been the winner. All of these could have very well won. I think that's like the 3rd time I've said that. Now, with Kaisa specifically, this is an excellent result, especially post-ban. What do you think about like the transition that Kaisa's had to make from Origins into now Spirit Forge post-ban?
Yeah, it's an interesting build. I mean, the Forecaster is immediately the thing that catches the eye, preferred over the Paltiporo. Forecaster is your mechs have vision, which does include itself. The only other mech is going to be that Ferocious Forerunner. So still valuing 2-drops, but maybe not the most impressive 2-drop, I think it's fair to say. But overall, this deck's still on Time Warp. There's some different routes you can go with this. Like you can play the Progress Day, which is in the sideboard, Acarthian Reigns on the sideboard. Not playing Singularity in main kind of really just shows you like where the Kaisa players feel like their position. They don't really have time to be playing a card like Singularity, which doesn't develop the board at all. I think Ruin Runner is a bit of a problem for Kaisa. I expected Kaisa maybe to have some slightly better results overall, but it's still just a brilliant deck. And I think that I expect Kaisa to continue to be one of the best decks in Riftbound moving forwards. It's just an incredibly strong legend ability.
I was just going to say, much like Annie, it has a legend ability that'll always be relevant. Like, there will be no point, unless it gets rotated out. That's the only time that Kaisa's legend ability won't be relevant, because it is going to be one of those ones you can turn to obviously get success with. We would be crazy not to talk about Sett. Sett, this was one of the biggest performances we've seen from Sett in a while. Now, early on in Origins, especially in the Chinese release, we saw Sett like doing very well competitively. And then, it seems like out of nowhere, he didn't even place top cut in Houston, right? All of a sudden fell off the map completely. And this Sett, like, I don't want to say it again, but could have taken it all. And I actually mean that legitimately. That's like the 5th time I've said that. I'm going to stop saying that, oh, they could have taken it all, but they really could have. This set was remarkable, an absolutely excellent performance. Joe, what do you think about Sett, and is the boss back?
Yeah, Colin Kaisa won a pretty big event with Sett back in Set 1 as well, which was, and then basically shortly after that, Sett was on the radar for Houston, and it had a terrible, terrible event. It's weak to Rebuke, which obviously we saw is one of the best, or the most popular cards in Riftbound right now. So that's a big problem the deck's got. So I suppose when you're building this, how do you manage to deal with Rebuke? And Sabotage is quite a clear answer there. Being able to discard it. You've got Showstopper, which is one of the best signature spells. Triple Arena Bar is really greedy, but shows you how much Colin Kaisa values the ability to get the buffs down. Buffs in every deck apart from Sett feel quite lackluster, right? Yeah, okay, I get a buff off Lee Sin. I don't really care. But in Sett, those buffs obviously can protect your units so heavily. So the Arena Bar is that 3 of really valued. And then the Fey Dragon as a new addition, which is a 7 energy, 1 orange power, and 7 might card. When you play me, buff up to 4 friendly units. When you spend a buff, play a gold gear token exhausted. And again, it was so close, Alex. The set so nearly won that quarterfinals. One of the key things also that the Sett player became unstuck on, if we look at the battlefields, they're very reliant on card draw. You don't have much natural card draw in this deck. And the Grove of the Godwillow was their go first battlefield. And Prismaticism on their second turn, thanks to those extra 2 runes of Annie, was able to be so aggressive. And I think they hit a hard bargain on a punch first or something along those lines. And Prismaticism was just able to get early control of the Grove of the Godwillow. And despite that, Sett still almost brought it back. It was such a nail biter and really masterfully done by Prismaticism. I think that Sett was against basically any other Annie player in the world was going to be putting themselves into the top 4. So it really could have been Sett's tournament this weekend.
No question. It was actually an amazing tournament overall. Absolutely phenomenal. And if anything, what it does is it makes me even more excited for Unleashed. This was the last tournament in Spirit Forge. I feel like we're closing the book on an era a little bit, just like it felt like when we closed the book on Origins. But guess what? The good news is these cards are going to continue to be relevant going into the future, and Unleashed is really going to add a whole lot more. And as we've seen, there's chances for people to cook and be experimental with cards that perhaps were underutilized in these prior sets, with some additional synergies that'll come out with Unleashed. So as you increase the card pool, the opportunity to synergize increases. Right off the rip, I'm going to tell you that I am super excited. I think I want to build Ivern. I think I've decided that I really, really hope to pull some Ivern. Vex looks really cool too to me. If you had to call out one hero right now, and by hero I mean legend, one legend right now that you want to build, other than Vi that you already talked about, who is it, Joe?
Oh, I'm on the spot. It's going to be Kha'Zix.
There's no way it's actually Kha'Zix.
Yeah, it is. I want to try some XP stuff, see if it can work. Okay, I built a Kha'Zix deck. I haven't tried it yet, but it uses the signature spell where you move your opponent's stuff around loads. And there's a gear called Blast Cone in purple, which is whenever or once a turn, because you have to exhaust it, when you move one of your opponent's units, stun it. So I wanted to try a purple, orange, move their stuff stun deck. It's probably not going to be good, but I'm going to try it.
See, I really, really, really want to cook an Ivern deck, and then I'm just going to net deck someone's amazing LeBlanc deck. I think that's what my plan is, because that one's going to require a true chef's kiss. And I'll give it a shot, but I think that ultimately we'll have to see some absolute epic results from LeBlanc, which I'm actually super excited for as well. And guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. We have a tremendous amount of fun recording these podcasts, and thank you so much for all of your support. If you'd like to support the show, the best way you can do that is by hitting the like button. It's absolutely free. It helps tremendously with the algorithm, and while you're down there, double check that you are subscribed. From both Joe and I, thank you so much for joining us this week, and we'll see you on that next one.